Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Money Date. It is Wednesday. I am Anna, and today I want to chat with you about 529 plans and what can you do with those to start saving for college and other educated related expenses. So that's the topic for today's discussion. We are also here on the Money Date, and so for those of you hopping on, thanks so much. I hope this is intriguing you and you're going to visit with me live. If you are, say something in the chat, say hello, let me know you're here. Share this out as well. I appreciate you watching. So you guys, for those of you who are usually watching this every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 Eastern, you know that Money Dates are about us taking the time in our busy lives to check in with ourselves about how our finances have been doing. So it's been a week since the last time I saw you. So how are you doing? How's it going? And have you dedicated time? Hi Trisha, good to have you here. Have you dedicated time on your calendar, right, to start paying attention to what your finances are all about? That's where Money Date started. So there are 3 things that I want you to consider on your weekly basis as you go through your life, and those are the things that help me stay on track. And I am extremely busy with all kinds of things that I'm involved in, business and personal life, and I found a way to keep my finances on track and organized. And so that's where Money Date is coming from. 3 things, okay? So number 1, we're going to talk about where our income is coming from, all right? Need to know that with your eyes closed. Where are your expenses? How has your spending been over the last 7 days? And last week we talked about, that was the beginning of the month. Hopefully you do a once a month global update and review of your finances. And the third one is the savings goals. You should have goals and you should have savings dedicated to those specific goals. So those 3 things, my friends, is what you need to be staying on the top of every week. All right. And as you go on, it becomes much easier. So you don't have to hop on here for Money Dates. You can find time elsewhere in your calendar when you can do this. I used to do this on Sundays with Yuri. That's where it started. Now, because I want you to be educated consumer, right, when it comes to making decisions about your finances, I always find an interesting topic to talk to. So all this month, I'm focusing on all of the videos and articles and things that I'm sharing throughout social media channels is going to be about saving for education, how to fund education, because you guys all know there's a huge issue in this country is it pertains to student loan debts. College costs enormous amount of money, and many of you aren't prepared for that. So there are some things that you can start doing, even though you might be somewhere on this spectrum, right? You're not just starting out, but you may be halfway through or getting closer. So today I want to talk about 529 college savings plans, okay? I find this an interesting topic because there's so many great benefits that these plans have to offer. And I think it's worth reviewing and talking about where do you go, how do you get started, and what should you consider, right, when you're investing in those types of vehicles. Now, it's not only used for college savings, college-related expenses. So that's one thing, so stay tuned. I'm going to talk about this towards the end. Before I get into the actual topic, I'd love for you to share with me your money win. And you guys know I'm big on finding the time and space, right? It's mental space, finding that mental space to appreciate what has been great for you over the last 7 days. And so I am actually on the East Coast. It's kind of funny, but I am really used to doing these Money Dates at 6 o'clock Pacific, right? So my day is just about to end when I'm home in my office, but I'm traveling this week. I've been on the road for the last 2 weeks, and so I'm here on the East Coast visiting my family, and I have 2 offices that I am seeing clients at, and so it is 9 o'clock, kind of different. It's actually dark outside already. So, but my money win, and the reason I'm sharing all of this is with you is I get to actually spend the weekend. I'm working and then working for 4 days, and then Friday and the weekend is when I get to spend with my family. So we're having a little family reunion. It is quite important for me because Yuri and I live in California, all my family here. His parents are also come and go, so this is a time where my family gets together. So maybe an early Thanksgiving. I don't know yet. We'll have to figure this out, but that's quite a win because it took us a little bit of time. Hi, Debbie. Good to have you. Took a little bit of time for us to pull all of this together. So I'm excited. It is 95 in Maryland, hot and humid. So for all of my California friends, I miss you because Northern California weather is fantastic. So, but anyway, all is good. So let's get into the actual topic. So 529 plans. So I want to talk about a couple of things here. I want to talk about the actual plans. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, back in when I was starting out in my financial planning career, I actually worked / volunteered for Maryland 529 College Savings Plan. It was a fun job because what I got to do, I got to go out and talk to groups of parents, either at schools, it was mostly elementary and middle schools, or I was actually at fairs, state fairs, or like, there's one Sunday afternoon fairs where people can gather. So I used to have a little table and would give out information about what this particular plan. Maryland has two 529 plans. So that was something that I did for a number of years because that gave me a great exposure, and also understanding what and how these plans work, and so that I can teach others. Now, this just came sort of a side thing aside from what I was doing. So what's neat about the 529 plans, an actually interesting fact for you to consider, wherever you are in the United States, 49 states have adopted or have partnered up with other state that has a college savings plans. So generally, 529, and the funny name, the name comes from, and it's funny, from the IRS specific section or the code from where these plans have, they're governed by that particular code in the IRS, and that's where that comes from. So 529 college savings plans. So when you're thinking about that, something that should be going through your head is that whether you are going to college, you have children that you're thinking about saving for their college, you may be a grandparent, right, and thinking about what can you do for your grandkids. You have nieces and nephews. So pretty much anyone you want to take care of and you're concerned about are those folks that can benefit from having a 529 college plan. So wherever you are in the United States, whichever state you live in, you can go and pick a college savings plan that's particularly set up for the state you live in. And I'll talk in a little bit of why that might be advantageous for you. But the good news, my friends, you don't have to. Okay? Just because you live in California doesn't mean you can't invest in the Maryland 529 plan or Utah or any other state. So just understand that these vehicles are available for wherever you live. Also, something to remember, and this was one of the big objections from parents, is well, I am not sure where my child is going to go to college, so why would I want to pick College Savings Plan of Maryland when I think my daughter is going to go to university, one of the UCs, like let's say UC Berkeley, right? Good point. But the answer to this is that it doesn't matter because these college plans could be used in any school, and there's like, I think, over 500 accredited universities, including international schools, that these plans will be able to pay out and use for tuition, room and board, and all college-related expenses. So remember that. So you're not stuck in with any particular plan. You're not stuck in going to any particular school. It is a lot of flexibility. So let's talk about the benefits. The biggest benefit, and this is something for you to highlight, the biggest benefit of the 529 plan is that the money you put in grows tax-free if it's used for college-related expenses, okay? So anything to do with tuition, room and board, computers, some of the travel expenses, and again, remember the 529 is a special tax code in the IRS system that allows you, and there's a list of expenses that you can look at and say, all right, is this a qualifying expense? Because not everything is going to be considered a qualified education-related expense. So that's what these plans are designed to do. So think about this. If you're just starting out, you maybe had a child and you're starting out, so you have a lot of time on your hands, right? To get to a point where you've saved up enough to pay for their college related expenses for their education. So, and because it grows tax-free, that's the biggest advantage of it. Okay, now something extra that also exists, it's not in every state, so I urge you to check with the state that you live in, and this is where you can kind of start deciding, do I want this feature or I go out of state? So in some states, you also get to deduct, right? There's two options. You either get a deduction on your state income tax, or you get a credit for your state income tax for the contributions that you're making to these plans. Okay, so that's what you need to decide. Let's use example of, so two examples. Okay, I used to live in Maryland, I now live in California. Maryland 529 plan has a state deduction, so if you put $2,500 up to $2,500, that's what you can deduct on your state taxes. So it helps a little bit, right? California, for example, on the other hand, does not give a state deduction for the contributions to the California 529 plan. So when I'm deciding which plan to pick, and this is kind of the third criteria, I would look at those features. I would also look at the cost, okay? And the cost has to do with how this particular plan is invested. And the options are limitless. You can invest in stocks, you can invest in bonds, you can invest in CDs. There's more conservative kind of options. A lot of these plans also offer what's called target-based funds. So basically what you do is you say, all right, my child is going to go to college in 2027, right? Or right around it, maybe 2026 or 2028. So you pick a fund that has a date that's close to when they're going to start college. And what's neat about that is that the mix of what's inside of that particular investment is adjusted to sunset when you're going to need the money. So because one of the things that I've seen, and this happened over the last 10 years, right, is that parents did not quite pay attention to how their monies were invested in these savings vehicles, right? And so when the stock market was not at its best place, well, guess what? Just because you're investing in stocks in your 529, it doesn't mean it's protected from market downside. So you need to think about that, right? And again, your timeline, I talk about this all the time with you guys, but your timeline is very important when you look at how you should be investing your money, whether it's to college, whether you're saving for buying a house, where you're saving for retirement. That timeline is the most important thing that you need to consider, because that should help you figure out how much risk you're going to take, right? Okay, so we talked about where you should go, should you consider the state deduction or not, and the last piece was, are we looking at what it's costing you for actual investments in those particular funds? Because again, every dollar you don't waste on paying the necessary fees stays in your account, and it gets to grow, and you get to use it for your goal. So a couple of things I want to mention. So I found this criteria, and I thought it was useful for you to consider when looking around. So see what your state has to offer, but also be aware that there's other solutions that exist out there that might be actually better options. So if I had to look at what is the fund that has, or what is the plan, 529 college savings plan that has the best fees, right? So basically it's costing you the least, it's it's for the state of Utah, and it's managed by Vanguard, okay? Now, many of you know that Vanguard is one of the pioneers in creating index funds, low-cost type of mutual funds, right? Exchange-traded funds, index funds. So Utah plan is actually offering that lineup. So that's if we're looking for the low fees, because again, think about that. If we're starting over here, you have a 1 month old, and then we have all the way over here until 18 years from now. All this time, right, you're going to be paying fees for owning those investments. So you want to be considerate of that. Now, interesting statistic, but I wanted to still share that with you. Because the fees are one thing, right? And some people think that, you know, lower fees automatically guarantee you better returns, or higher fees, you know, indicate that maybe you're getting the best returns. None of this is actually true, right? You look at what the market performance is, you look at the benchmark, and then you make your decision. Now, Kiplinger's has a pretty good article. If you just Google 529 plans, Kiplinger's, it has a really good lineup of all of these things that I'm discussing with you. So just kind of note of that. But best underlying funds are in the Maryland 529 plan. And so Maryland 529 plan has two plans. There's the college investments plan, and there's the trust. And so the trust one is for if you wanted to prepay tuition ahead of time and you knew for sure that your kids were going to go to school here in Maryland, and so that's useful. But the actual investment plan is managed by T. Rowe Price. So it got some kind of award on performance and as far as what those funds are. So T. Rowe Price isn't a bad choice. Now, if you are looking, right, if you're one of those investors and looking to find a more conservative option, consider, this is Michigan's Education Savings Plan, and it's managed by Tia Kraft. So there, it's almost like you buying a CD or safer type of an investment. You're not investing in stocks because your objective, again, decide what you want. Your objective is to take, a less of a risk in terms of your investments. So it's also interesting because, again, my point is that if you have all this time, why not use it to help you grow your money? So, and then the other thing too, that sometimes you may want to have both, right? And so I feel like Vanguard, I'm not tied into any of these companies, you guys know. I really look at this objectively, but if you want to have a lineup of different investments, then Nebraska offers a plan that has all kinds of options. It has American Century, Fidelity, PIMCO, Vanguard. So basically, if you have if you want to have a diverse portfolio, you can go and choose and pick. Again, having different fund companies in your particular account isn't necessarily giving you the diversity you're looking for, but if that's what you're interested in, by all means, go ahead and get started. So I want you to think about what is it that you're trying to accomplish. Obviously, the big goal is to save and use the benefits of these types of accounts. Now, the other thing too is look at, and I'm big on this, fees versus performance. So what is it going to cost you per year, right, per $100 or $1,000 versus what you're going to get in terms of returns. Now, I would look at this way. Return is going to be consistent across the board, whether you go with the Maryland 529 plan or California or Utah or any of that. So the big differentiator, again, are you going to get a state income tax deduction, and so how the fees are going to differentiate between each of those plans. So make a decision that way. Something else I wanted to share with you that is kind of interesting, because so you guys all know we've had a tax reform that took place, and so starting in 2018 there's lots of new tax changes. Well, guess what? We haven't had one in a long time for anything to do with college savings accounts. So as you know, 529 college savings plans are traditionally have been used as vehicles to pay for expenses related to college costs. Well, the new law starting in 2018 allows to use the monies you save in the 529 plans to pay for private school, so K through 12. So if you are thinking, and this is kind of there's a limit on how much you can actually use, and not every state is on board, right? Because remember, the 529 plan is a federal type of plan. It is governed by the federal law, right? But each of the states have the administrative rights over these 529 plans. So because this is so new, you need to make sure, so go to your state's 529 plan and make sure that they're allowing, so if you have money saved up in the 529 and you have a child who's going to private school and you want to use those funds, it's $10,000 per year. It's not a whole lot, but think about this, right? It's something that's going to add up over time. Compounding really works. So you have a limit. So you need to make sure that your state is on board with allowing for you to use your 529 monies to pay for private school, so K through 12. It's kind of neat because for a lot of people, right, who have time, I know sometimes I was talking about this to a client earlier today, you don't really know, right, that maybe your child is gonna go to a private high school, right? So, you know, I guess at the end of the day, how do you prepare for something like that? You can use this as pass-through, but again, it's very similar to health savings accounts. But again, if you're planning to take money out of that account right away, it's not going to give you all of those benefits. The tax deductions aren't going to be that huge to take advantage of it. So it's really more of, can you put it in there? Can you let it grow? Can you take it out later? That's what I'm talking about. So remember that is the newest feature of the 529 plans. So that's kind of in general what I wanted to share with you guys today. So thanks for watching. Hi Shonda, good to have you. I hope you're doing well. Let me know what questions you have. Now, before I close, and for those of you who are hopping on, thanks for watching live. For those of you watching in replay, awesome to have you here. Let me know what your money win is for the week. I'd love to see how things have been. Shonda, we missed you at the Garrett retreat last week. Got to hang out with everybody, so I hope you and Claire are doing well. Let me know how things are. Now, I wanted to, before I close for every money date, I want to share a quote with you because I want you to think about this as you leave. And so, since we're talking about education savings in the 529 plans and kind of, you know, how these vehicles are something for parents to consider, parents, grandparents, and nieces and nephews. So Oprah Winfrey talks about that education is the key to unlocking the world, which is a passport to freedom. I've really thought about this quote because it is actually true, right? And the way we get education actually changed quite a bit. You don't have to go to traditional university or college to be successful, but I still look at it as sort of a path. It opens up the doors for a lot of things. Hi Dina, good to have you here. So I wish you guys a great week. Do not forget to do your money date. You guys know what that's all about, and I'll see you next Wednesday. And let me know if you have any questions on the 529 plans. Thanks for watching.